and safeguarding land for open public access and for nature and wildlife. And we look at certain parts of our district that have had significant amounts of housing, and you think particularly of someone like Didcot, where it doesn't have huge amounts of very accessible public space too around them. Now I have little pockets, and they have areas. We have areas like the Whitnam Clumps, which isn't immediately accessible by public transport. That's within the I know that's a project that the Didcot Garden Town is looking at. So it's a sort of an aspiration in working in partnership and possibly within our own resources to just identify and secure mural land, possibly even purchasing land, safeguarding land, possibly through arrangements with other local authorities like town and parish councils. So it's really that level of it's stating that aspiration. I think specific projects obviously will have to be judged on their own merits.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, so I'm joining in the chorus of praise for the general direction here. The one thing that struck me is we're going out to consultation very quickly after the JLP, and I just wonder whether there's actually enough time between the end of the JLP consultation and the start of this to actually build in some of the lessons learned to make certain if we need to adjust the consultation, we're actually able to do so.
Yeah, do you know, I think that's a very fair point. And actually, given that we've extended the timeline for the JLP consultation, I think maybe it's something we should take away and just have another look at within our overall timetable.
Yeah, because I mean, we all learn from everything we do, don't we? So there's bound to be improvements.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair comment and a fair question.
Just to add to that, is within our gift in terms of when we start that engagement, by the way. So.
Because it's not a legal requirement. This is very much a discretionary activity.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gregory.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on the engagement plan. I think, Tony, you make a good point about timing, but also often when we get some of these consultations back, they are massively underrepresented by young people specifically. I'd be interested to know what we're going to put in place to ensure that we're reaching audiences that are hard to reach. And also, so when I look at the channels as well, so the audiences are youth groups, schools, colleges, but that doesn't appear on the channels. I'm wondering if there's a way that we can include schools within our channels as well. So we're potentially asking schools to send out emails to parents, but also so that they can schools can also, especially in secondary schools, ask the students to actually participate as well. So I think it would be good that might be a good channel to actually get some younger participation.
Yeah. So first of all, I think one of the points to make is that we don't intend to kind of create lots of additional meetings and then invite people to come along. Really, what our thrust will be is going out to places where people are already present. So going to meet them on their own terms, as it were. Of course, Councillor Philip Over-Rivers has already tackled this challenge. She's solving the problem of reaching school children single-handedly by being very brave and speaking to a group of 10-year-olds at her local primary school, and had a fantastic experience doing it, and came up with they came out with some amazing unprompted suggestions. And so this is something that we're keen for others to hear about, and not everybody will be comfortable doing that, but some people would love to do it. I know I've actually been approached over the weekend by somebody at my local secondary school to do something similar. So I think the more we can get out and talk to that particular cohort, I think the better. As you say, they are, and to echo what Councillor Rob was saying, future generations are mentioned in theme 4 under the homes and infrastructure, but I think that doesn't mean they can't be mentioned again, and it doesn't mean that we can't do more to really take their views on board. So yeah, I think and I know the team is putting a lot of thought into how we reach these we call them sort of lesser heard voices. How do we find them, how do we get out to them, how do we facilitate that sort of that conversation And so any help that anybody is able to offer, then I'm sure will be much
Thank you for
appreciated.
that, Councillor Bell. I know Adriana would like to come in.
Yeah, I just wanted to come in around the schools because I think it's a really good idea and it is something we're building already. So our economic development team and our people and cultural team are building their relationships with schools because we are doing a lot of work around apprenticeships and how great it is to work for local government and just explaining more. And also we did a lot of engagement with schools around elections and what elections means, and we'll be doing that again obviously because we've got a forthcoming general election coming. So we are building those networks in our schools. So it links back to Councillor Powell's comment around teams across the council will be helping to support using the networks that we're building across all the teams.
Thank you for that. Councillor Rob.
I'm sorry to come back in. I just wanted to raise a particular point, and Adriana has just sort of touched on it, which is we have one of the most amazing economic development teams, you know, of any local authority. I think they're phenomenal. We don't mention in this corporate plan support for businesses. I know this is ongoing, but there really isn't any mention of the support that we offer to businesses and the ways in which we can, you know, encourage small business in particular, small and medium businesses, which are the lifeblood of our you know, local economy. So I wanted to raise that. There doesn't seem to be much in there or anything at all about small and medium-sized businesses and the economic development team. And also about the visitor economy. They have been working very hard on coming up with a vision for sustainable tourism in our district and for encouraging our own residents to visit our own beautiful district. So I'm sure that can be, I mean, look, far be it for me to draft the thing because it's already excellent, but I think that is a bit of an initiative. And in terms of younger people, which the reference to younger people says to improve engagement with younger people in consultation projects. Adriana has already indicated that it's far broader than that, but I would very much like to see engagement with younger people extend beyond the consultation projects that we already undertake. And, you know, going into things like what Adriana mentioned, general, you know, engagement with younger people around democracy and what it is that they want from us. Thanks.
And I'm just going to push back a bit about the lack of mention of businesses because we do mention business under theme 3. We talk about wanting to regenerate the econ still bringing employment opportunities. We talk about providing advice on grants, training and diversification programs to help local businesses to build agility and resilience.
Yeah.
So they are there, but you know,
I think
there are
what Rob
possibly
is saying, it just needs to be amplified a bit more.
yeah, and remember, I think it's just worth reminding ourselves, and I need to stress this again, that the corporate plan, we're taking a slightly different approach to what we did 4 years ago, in that we want to keep this really quite high level, at a very strategic level. So it sort of sits at the top of our golden needle, like the eye needle or the point, whatever. And then we will be able then to shape annual service delivery plans that give us the tactics that are going to help us to achieve our overall strategic objectives. And so, you know, that's where the detailed projects will be really shaped and finessed. And I think each team, so including the economic development team, will have a key role to play in identifying those projects to bring forward.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Barlow, anybody else? Okay, Councillor Barlow.
Thank you. Just another couple of points about language, actually. Really welcome the way in which you're talking about climate change building resilience. And I'd encourage us to go even further and not so us as an institution acknowledges that since 2019 the climate change environment has moved on, if you will, and perhaps encourage us to talk explicitly about adaptation, because whilst we don't want to lead everybody in certain ways, I think that is one where it's our duty to lead and talk about adaptation, that this isn't just about reducing emissions anymore, but it's about getting used to what's happening and building a really resilient community. So that's one thing.
Yeah, no, thank you for that comment, and that's something that came out as part of our informal discussion over the weekend as well. And I think that's entirely appropriate. That theme 1 should be, you know, climate adaptation and nature recovery, not climate change, because we know climate change is a problem. It's what are we going to do about it?
And it might fit with the overall vision or whatever as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then the second question, it's a question for myself as much as all of us, but we talked about fairness and equality, and then equity comes up as well. David was talking about equity, and I'd like us to get clear about what we mean by those things. Not here now, but I think again it's part of our overall what we stand for as an organisation when we're going out. Because I get confused by the difference between equity, equality, and fairness. And I think we just want to all understand that, so that when we're representing our residents and when we're working with them, co-producing this, that we're really clear that something that Kate, you were talking about earlier, you know, the creches. I understand that that's, if you like, something which allows equity. It gives everybody in different situations the same access. But I just want to make sure that we understand that. So I'd encourage you to go back as Cabinet and as the SMT to help us with what you understand by those words, so that we can choose those words appropriately.
Yeah, and I think there are very technical and specific definitions of the terms equity and equitable. I think for me, you know, the corporate plan is a communication document as much as anything, and I think we want to use sort of simple and clearly understandable language. I like the word fairness because I think people know what fair feels like and they know what unfair feels like. And I think what we want is a fairer society, a fairer district, and I like that word. So I just think we can communicate that clearly.
Perhaps my point wasn't which is the right word. It was us being clear together when we use the word, what we mean by it, so we can communicate really well. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I just had a quick one. I know you said right at the beginning you didn't have a priority at the moment. You hadn't ranked them, but you know, I'm quite interested, as you're the cabinet member for this. What's your top one?
Oh, you'll stop there. Oh, that's one, isn't it? Generally, we haven't, and actually, I mean, when we did it last time, we went out to the to engagement, and the responses we had from public changed the order. So obviously, the priority to the outside world was different to our own internal priority. Well, I think for me, I think climate adaptation, nature recovery has got to be the #1 priority. I mean, that's the biggest challenge facing us as a global society, and I think we have a key role to play in that. You know, I think you know, there's not much to choose between them, but if I had to choose, that'd be the one I would put on.
Okay, thank you. I just want to do just for my information there. Thank you. Any other questions? I see none. So we're going to debate, and what we're looking at is on page 11, which is recommendations for us to review the approach outlined in the corporate plan for 2024 to 28, and to give any feedback to Cabinet. And we're having their meeting on the 15th of February. And the second recommendation is for us, if we feel like we want to endorse the approach and ask the Cabinet to approve that. So that's what we're debating. So who would like to start?
I have 3 points about language, adaptation, participants, not audiences, and promoting, not supporting community-led engagement. I'd be saying, could we recommend those as slight nuances and changes in language?
Anybody else?
Yes,
Rob?
I'd like to support the recommendation with additions of recommendations to Cabinet to take forward drafting of a vision, an overarching vision to crystallise the values in the plan. The comments that have been made around engagement. My comment about procurement strategy aligning with the priorities of inherent in the plan. Oh, and I did also have a point that I didn't make, and that was about living within planetary boundaries. And I wonder if Cabinet would be willing to take forward that language as well. Thanks.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, but definitely, please, vision, the comments around engagement, and for me, the comments around procurement and support for business. I think that needs to be it's currently a line that is an ongoing piece of work. I would like to see it actually in the body of the strategy itself.
What I'll do, I'll summarise at the end.
Yeah.
But what we're debating is, do we endorse the corporate plan and the approach?
Yes.
I just want to bring it all back.
Sorry. Yes.
So, but I will summarise at the end. Councillor Turner, you had your hand up.
I was just going to say that to recognise that 60% of our residents live in villages, rural settings, and we need to create a fair situation for them to use what actually they're paying for with their council tax.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rawlings.
I'd just like to add that point about fairness on housing relating to theme 4 and relating it to both current and future plans.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan?
And just to reiterate the point Councillor Rob made earlier about promoting this to very much the younger end, and Councillor Gregory's point about making certain we engage people who may not be voters now, but will be paying tax and voting very soon. That'll be part of their future.
Okay, thank you. I would just, I'll just summarise the key points, and then obviously we can go on to discuss the actual recommendations. So the themes or the comments that I've put down here: how we engage with young people and the future generation. There was a question about the timetable in terms of when we start the engagement process, how we communicate and engage with hard to reach. We need to look at our comms channel, make sure we're using the appropriate language, and also how we're communicating with them. There was the comment about support for businesses and amplifying that. There was a comment about visitor economy. Again, how do we engage with that? How do we get that across? Language in terms of climate adaptation. And I think we'll work well having a jargon bus there somewhere, just so people know what it means, and then we all know that's what you mean. There was comment about having a vision. And then Councillor Robin obviously mentioned procurement, and Councillor Rawlings about housing. So I think they're all the comments that the committee have mentioned. So I'm sure Councillor Powell and Tim, you will take that on board. And when you do get this out there, they will take on board. But I'm asking the committee members, the question is, do you endorse the approach? And obviously, I think we need to realise there will be future. This is a living document. It will change. There still has to be the engagement and consultation. So what the question is, it's not all these things that we discussed, they're going to take on board is, do we want the cabinet members to proceed with this direction and framework? Is the answer yes or no? So that's what
Yes.
okay, so can I have someone to propose? So you're proposing that they
Yeah,
go ahead with the approach?
Fundamentally, yes.
Okay. Do I have a seconder?
Yep.
Councillor Morgan. Okay, any other debate? Any final comments?
Just to say thank you very much.
Yes.
For the work you've done into this. Yeah.
So Chair basically voted in favour, but everything that you've commented will be in the minutes, so I'll refer to, please refer to comments and suggestions
Yeah, so
raised by the committee.
we endorse the approach and the
Yeah.
framework and the thinking behind it, but we want our comments to be taken on board. So
Can I just expand the timing comment for the purpose of the minutes?
Yes,
The
please.
timing comment was very specifically around ensuring lessons learned.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
current JLP process were incorporated in.
that's it, yes. Yes, hopefully everyone understood that. So, okay, who's in favour? That's all unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you to Councillor Powell and lots of Tim and other people who put the report together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to get to the next item, which is agenda item 9, and I know everyone's going to be geared up for this, so I'm going to give everyone a 2-minute break before we start. But we are going to go and
Overall, I'm staring kind of.
I'll just say you can write down.
You don't have to. Good sharing.
So we've still got time.
Minutes.
No, but I'll be adding that 10 minutes on because we started late and we have a break.
That's not.
We're getting like 3 hours.
Is it three? You started
We started at 4:30, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry?
So half four you started.
No, we didn't.
Committee.
We did.
Let's go.
Yeah, but that wasn't this committee.
This is a different meeting. Okay. If we can have everyone back, please.
Spreading out here, aren't we?
Okay, Bertie, but let us know when well, I'm muted.
You should be, can everyone hear us?
Hi, yes. Well, I'm having some audio issues at my end. OBS is not working. So YouTube's not hearing us very well.
Okay, well, Bertie, I'll just double check, but if I record it my end and then we've got a backup,
Yeah.
okay? So
Okay.
we'll proceed as long as the rest of the meeting can hear us. Can officers hear us online? Okay,
Yeah, we can hear you.
thanks.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, we'll resume the meeting. We're now on item 9, which is the future direction of Cornerstone Arts Centre in Didcot. It's on pages 13 to 225 of your agenda papers. And before we start on this agenda item, I just want to make sure, obviously there are some papers that have been circulated which are marked confidential. I'm hoping we don't need to go into confidential session. But if we do, please leave those questions and comments to the end and we'll go into confidential. But hopefully we won't need to do that. And I just want to remind committee members, we are only talking about Cornerstone in Didcot, nowhere else. We're not talking about any other properties or venues. So please ignore anything else you read. We're just focusing on Cornerstone. And this is what this paper is about. And this paper is about looking at the plan, framework and approach. So I just want to make that clear so everyone understands that. So there's a big report with a lot of other elements in there, which are very confidential, but this is about Cornerstone. So on that note, on that basis, I will get Councillor Philippa Rivers and also Andrew Busby to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you. It's only been 5 years.
Oh, no.
But it's okay. Longer for David Turner. Yes, thank you so much and congratulations on surviving the marathon of papers that you have had today. This is partly our fault having such a busy agenda because we thought it was really important that we give Cornerstone and its future some visibility and some priority as we begin to implement some of these actions to ensure its future sustainability. I'm joined by Andrew and also Suzanne and in fact Adriana, who may be able to also support with any questions that you might have. But I guess if I start with a little bit of history. So Cornerstone, when we took over in 2019, even at the time, the subsidy, so effectively the kind of net loss that it was making was significant. And I have to say that since then, you know, the problems and challenges around Cornerstone haven't stopped coming. Everything from obviously the kind of more external shocks that Cornerstone has experienced in terms of COVID, in terms of just the general state of the arts and culture sector, cost of living, of course, and the kind of more internal ones, some of which have to do with the fabric, had to do, but luckily we can say had now, with the fabric of the building, the boilers breaking and having us having to close the venue, the roof, the leak on the roof as well. So I think these have all contributed to what has been quite a significant challenge. And with those challenges as well, we have also experienced delays in terms of being able to really start to implement some positive change. That said, it doesn't mean that nothing has been done, and we'll go through some of the actions that have already been taken or are in the process of being progressed. So I think whenever we have a challenge, external or internal, I think where we need to start is by defining the problem. And although we obviously had our own understanding, users of Cornerstone, also we had quite a lot of anecdotal information about challenges and issues, we wanted to have a professional opinion as to, you know, what is going wrong, in order to then be able to provide some solutions to the various problems that we have experienced with Cornerstone. And so to that end, we commissioned, as part of transformation, 3 studies. The artisan paper, they're explained in your report, which effectively was asking the questions as to, well, what can we do? What is the best use of this building? The LGA peer review, which was to do with the cultural offer, the kind of social value aspects, as well as others, and the Bryn-Jones report that also focused in part on the offer, but also the management and the operational structure of Cornerstone. So I think in the report we talk about management, governance, and operational structure, but we really mean exactly the same thing. The question is, who is best placed to operate this facility? Is it the council? Is it an external outsourced management company provider, or is it a trust or charity type organization? And we know that quite a lot of arts and culture venues are going into either of those, in fact. So you can see them in confidential, in your packs on the confidential items, the reports. As you have already seen some communications on this, there were issues with particularly the Bryn-Jones reports. Some of kind of less than perfect financial assumptions were made. All of the reports are a snapshot in time, a time where the centre was very much still trying to recover in terms of ticket sales, etc. So that said, though, I think there is a lot of useful recommendations in all 3 of the reports, and interestingly, some of them actually say exactly the same things. And so, again, having defined the problem, both on the basis of the professional opinion, and of course, there's some political consideration in terms of our commitment to continue to support this service. We say facility, but really it is a service, and I think it's important that we see it as such, which is for Didcot and the surrounding areas. I think we have, well, various, when I say we, I mean officers, members, and when actually an internal officer group as well, have all had input into the action plan. I think the vast majority of the actions that you can see in Appendix 6, which is where I really hope it will focus discussions, because we're coming to you genuinely wanting to your advice, to understand, do you think we have included everything? Is there anything that we have missed, especially if you are Didcot members and use the facility? Does do any of the actions sound completely bonkers? So that we're genuinely looking to you to contribute to the development of this action plan. I've been trying to think of another way to say that this is going to be a living document, because it's become quite something that we say about everything, but it won't sit on the shelf. You will see that some of the items have explore or to look into things. And I think as we go, some of these activities as they are on here will get firmed up. We will discount some of them inevitably for whatever reason that may be, viability, feasibility, whatever. So you know, this is not going to be the last opportunity to contribute to this. And of course, as scrutiny members, you obviously you can call in and check and monitor the progress of the delivery. A couple of more things to say is the time frame of 18 months, 18 and a bit months is tight. And the reason for that is because I think both officers and members have been frustrated that we haven't been able to progress this. And so this plan is in part to hold ourselves accountable for the delivery and to have an actual framework on which we can all monitor. And this is not just members and officers, as you will see from item, I think it is 2 on the action plan. Was it 2? Anyway, I'll have a look. It will go through the Didcot Garden Town boards as well. And there's various other stakeholders that hopefully will have eyes on this. And so I'm confident now that with this in place, we will be able to be more accountable and to monitor progress against the objectives and ensure that the activities are taken forward. So yeah, I think I'll probably leave it there. Have I missed anything?
Excellent introduction. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councillor Rivers. Do you want to? You don't want to add anything else?
Not at this point, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that, introducing that, and for giving us the context. Committee members, any questions? I see Councillor Rawlings. Anybody else? Councillor Rawlings and Councillor Roll.
I would just say, Chair, you know, we've been trying to address this problem for a long time now. It's been 500,000 annual problem ongoing. Cornerstone has been a financial and delivery fire, so it really has been urgent. And I'm disappointed that the studies that we see are over a year old. They've been in the council for over a year, and only now are they seeing the light of day. The processes, the discussions that were previously considered to have a cornerstone group of councillors, to have local councillors engaged and so forth, they have not been taken forward, they haven't met, and they haven't seen the papers in the whole of this more than a year, which I think is unfortunate. Really, there are a number of actions that could have been, and I think should have been taken earlier to start to stem the fire. It is, yes, it's a philosophical question. Let's have a look at a strategy. Let's think about the long term. But when something's on fire, what you need to do is to get in there and actually fix some things. You know, the stuff on the capital plan is good, and yes, we need the external signage. I don't see a clear staffing plan at the moment that we're being put forward. When I look at the detail that's in one of the reports as proposals, I don't see anything like that detail in what's being proposed, and I'd like to see that. I'd like to understand that, what that represents. How we're going to address the auditorium and shows plan, how that's going to be put together. There's lots and lots of very good material here, but I can't see quite what's going to be done to fix that. Out from the outset, we said that there were spaces and we needed to link those to user types and organisations by time slot. Sometimes Cornerstone has good attendance, and other times it's pretty void. There's not so much going on, but actually there's a load of potential there, and we need to bring in new organisations and new activities. We need, I think, engagement with Didcot Town Council, community groups and businesses, and some of that, you know, some of those time slots in the day, we might not be able to get such an elevated income, but maybe those groups, those community groups or whatever, can provide a help to us in other ways,
Councillor
like
Rawlings,
volunteering.
you do know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Well, it's getting on a bit, and I've got loads of stuff here, and that's why I'm saying I think we probably are going to have, you know, a major session on this, maybe an all-day session, but certainly a much longer session than a sort of tired half an hour at the end of.
No. Councillor Rawlings, what you said, you know, I agree with you that, you know, this could have come to us earlier. And there are certain things you've highlighted, you've said that could have been improved. But this is your opportunity. This is your opportunity. And yes, you know, we could have talked about it 6 months ago, 12 months ago, but that's gone.
Yeah.
This is our opportunity to say, can you input this? Can you review this? And this is the purpose of this paper. And this is why I wanted this to be heard now rather than delayed. So you can, all the things you've said, I'm sure Councillor Philippa Rivers would have noted and said yes. And I'm sure, I'm not putting words in your mouth, I'm sure you would like to have put this earlier, but this is our opportunity to bring those points across.
And I would have liked to see the analysis in here of all the different demographics and ages and how Cornerstone can relate to them and what it can do for them and what time slots it should be. The creche idea is worth consideration. Things like craft fairs and stuff haven't been mentioned, but boy, can they potentially relate to crafters and arts and linking all this together in the middle of a prime retail location.
Councillor Rawlings, everything that you said, I believe, I'm sure they may appear in the next review of this report. Is there a question?
Well, one of the main questions for me is to understand a bit more about the lease and ownership structure, because we have a situation where SODC owns the whole of the Orchard Centre, then we lease it off to somebody else, then it's leased back to us for a peppercorn rent. So whether there might be an opportunity.
I only want questions on Cornerstone.
Yeah, and there's a question on Cornerstone, how we take Cornerstone potentially out of that. It's not going to have a high value for the head leaseholder because he's only getting a peppercorn rent, but it might be much simpler to us to have direct ownership of Cornerstone and not have a complicated arrangement. So that might help us in addressing some of the things that we're trying to do and some of the barriers that we feared might exist.
Okay.
I don't think that has flagged as a particular barrier, but I think that one is probably more for legal and democratic.
No,
and
indeed,
I'm happy to
indeed.
take it away. Delay. Look, as I said, we are equally frustrated. We would have liked to do more sooner, but again, we have had COVID, we have had staff changes, there has been staff turnover. Cornerstone was transferred over from the communities team over to corporate landlord, and luckily we have managed to address some of the boiler, well, all of the boiler issues. So far, and the various leaks, actually there was more than one at one point. So it genuinely, we have actually been quite unlucky as well, and the centre has been quite unlucky. So I don't want to say that you know, to appear to be making excuses. I certainly do take responsibility, which is why we are coming up with a plan that we can all monitor. Let me finish. You've made quite a long statement. So in terms of staff, I think there is a recognition, and it is highlighted in some of the reports as well, is that we just don't have the appropriate skills. And I think that one of the first things that we need to do is to get specialist skills, and that means art, marketing skills. It means having a person who actually oversees with targets the delivery of the action plan, and is focused solely on Cornerstone. We also recognise that there is a certain expertise we need around fundraising and looking at external income as well. So these things are all being addressed, right? Because we here, with maybe some small exceptions, don't have the skills to be able to do what you're suggesting is audience development, right? We don't have the skills to do that. No, you're going to listen the way that I listen to you.
Stop, please.
So
no interruptions.
So ultimately, that is where we need to start, and we are already out recruiting. I don't know if Adriana wants to make a comment as to how far we have got with that, but we are close to be able to get the skills. in some of the things that you point out around engagement with both internal stakeholders, with Didcot Garden Town, which are already well-functioning boards with quite large local representation, right, from the communities. There is also an item on engaging with businesses. There is also an activity around looking at hot desking and how that could be facilitated. At the moment, we are leaving no stone unturned. And so a lot of what you're mentioning is already happening. But the one thing that I think I would be reluctant to do is that we as councillors and officers, perhaps that don't have expertise in arts and culture, sit down to do an audience development plan. You will see some of the deliverables as part of this plan are very much geared towards producing a marketing strategy, a specialist marketing strategy, and a fundraising strategy. So I'm sure we'll have a lot more conversations around that. So I think I have addressed everything. Do let me know if there is anything more.
Thank you for that. I'm just going to remind committee members, please do not interrupt. Please let the other person finish making their point. If you do want to add anything else, please come through me. Councillor Rawlings, I will come back to you because I know you want to go other questions, but I go to Councillor Rob, then Councillor Turner, then Councillor Morgan, and then Councillor Keats Ryan.
Chair, might be a good time to.
I'll do that in 10 minutes.
We have to do it ahead of going into the.
Right, because okay, I'll do it. Okay.
Shall I wait, Chair?
Okay. We are going to need to extend the meeting by half an hour, and I think we do need that time. And obviously there's been a few sort of audio issues, etc. There is a little leeway we got, but I'm going to propose that we extend the meeting for another half an hour at least. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Morgan, all in favour? Thank you. Sorry about that, Councillor Rob. Continue.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you very much. Reading the reports and looking at the action plan objectives, everything hinges on recruiting the right people, doesn't it, really? The salvation of this arts centre absolutely depends totally on the quality of the staff we get and their ability to engage an audience, get the right shows coming in that are going to pull in the punters, as we say in Australia. And then we need, separate to that, somebody who knows how to run an arts organisation on the money side of things. So, I mean, with the National Theatre will have a director of the whole thing, and then it will have a director of arts who will be the person who decides what they're going to put on. So when everything flowing from that, everything underneath item 2 on the action plan, or almost all of it, I wonder, are we not telling this person how to do their job? That's what worries me. If we get the right person, they might turn around and say, I don't want any of this. Let me do my job. Give me 6 months. I'll show you how it's done. I don't want us as a district council with zero expertise and understanding on how to run an arts centre to be telling an expert how to do their job. So I'm very conscious of that in terms of having very detailed items in this action plan, that we're not treading on the toes and in any way constraining the job of a person who knows what they're doing and who we're paying, I hope, a decent salary to turn this thing around. So that's my first thing. I want to make sure that that person has the freedom and that we're not unduly constraining them with an action plan. The second thing is I want to make sure that the action plan doesn't predetermine what might happen in 18 months. It's my personal view, and looking at the reports and at the success of other similar comparator art centres that have been spun off into charitable trusts, that may well be the best way forward. I don't want us to take action that will potentially impede the possibility of that course of action in the next in 18 months' time when we review. What I would very much like to see when this comes back for review is, and I would like to see this straight away actually, is monthly analysis of visitor numbers, of response to social media campaigns, of response to events that have been put on. If we look, for example, at some of the stuff about some comparative theatres, and the Mill in Newbury, I think, is one. Comedy is by far the best performing of all of the things that they put on. Comedy consistently is the number one, most sold item that they offer. And I look at Cornerstone, we've got 9 nights of comedy for the whole year booked. I just don't think that we're necessarily paying attention to what works and where we should be, pushing out our resource.
Councillor Rob,
Which is
question?
My question is, please can we have monthly analysis? Please can we have some more detailed and up-to-date comparison with what other similar comparable art centres are doing and what works there? Because looking at Banbury, where my sons just went to a magic art show last Friday night, and it was packed to the rafters, we need to be looking to what our neighbours are doing. And I don't think we should be thinking of this as a Didcot thing. Didcot is the only town in South Oxfordshire that has a mainline railway station. You can get to it from Reading, you can get to it from Oxford, you can get to it from all around. We need to be looking far wider. And I think at the moment we've been spending more than £500,000 a year propping it up. And I think we need to be thinking, let's look wider, let's cast the net. How can we provide an arts offering for a far wider audience geographically? So I would very much like to see us look into that. So my request is, please, when this comes back in 18 months' time, I want to see monthly analysis of visitor numbers and of what works, who went to what. What was the analysis when it came to social media engagement? And I want to see up-to-date comparison analysis with similar organisations, what's working for them. And I think we need to be keeping a really close eye on what they're doing.
Okay, but thank you, Councillor Bob.
Thanks.
I think there were more recommendations than questions.
Well, they are.
So I'm sure it's been
Are
noted.
we doing that? Are we doing that?
Yes, so if I can answer, so starting with constraining our new resource.
Yeah.
I think these don't come from obviously these come from the report. So these are people with experience. The suggestions are made, but of course, if we have a staff member who is looking after this and thinks that some of these may not work, then so we should discount them. But they're there because this is what has been recommended to us by the professionals, right? A lot of these don't come from us. If you look at them, they're probably slightly different wording, but taken out of the professional recommendations. So in terms of the right shows, yes, we've got a magic show coming up, by the way. I don't know, but
we've got 9 this year.
Yes, but out of 75. So that's not
the children's
so
ones
10%.
don't do so well.
Sorry?
The children's ones don't do so well.
So obviously officers are monitoring the figures. So this is not news to them. So they're very much looking at what is working, what it is. And I tend to agree just from the figures that I have seen. We do comedy shows do sell.
I would like to get to the next question. So just to summarise, you will look at the scheduling and the types of shows you've got on at Cornerstone.
Correct.
Yes or no?
We already are.
Okay,
These
that's good enough for
figures
me,
exist.
that you are, okay.
And can we have monthly analysis when this comes back?
That's a recommendation.
Thank you. Yeah, okay.
Councillor Turner. Thank you.
Yes, Chair, thank you. I was a member of the administration which planned Cornerstones in the first place. And we planned for it to have an auditorium of 350 seats. Regrettably, my point of view, that administration lost power. And the next incoming administration downgraded to 250 seats. And that has been a major problem for Cornerstones ever since, in terms of the quality of acts or bands or whatever you could attract. Some of you know that I'm very much into the iconic bands like Show of Hands who can pack places out. You can't hire them because you haven't got enough seats to put funds on. And that, to my view, has been one of the real problems. So my question on this is, I know we looked at it in the past, but is it impossible to extend the auditorium backwards or higher or what? Because that will enable us to attract better quality things, to attract more people to go to them.
It was looked at, you're correct, and it was discounted cost. The space wasn't quite there, so it's not possible. But I don't think, and this is just my personal view, because we have actually managed to attract some really good acts recently. We had a comedian, Adam Kay, was it? Adam Kay came. So I think it's just about having the right person with the right skills. We have Rosie, what's her name? Holt coming as well. So this is a big act, certainly in progressive land. So I'm not entirely sure that the auditorium is as constraining as, you know, perhaps we thought. That said, I think what is important is to utilize all space. And at the moment, there is a question mark around what are the correct, working hours for a cafe. Obviously, unless there is a show, the cafe/bar doesn't open later. Some of the rooms are not fully utilized. So I think your point in terms of actually sweating the asset are very valid. And these are some of the things that we'll.
But I remember at the time we visited many places around and surrounding counties as well. And the number of seats was so important to the success of the venue. So I'm not convinced we can't extend the auditorium.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Yes, there was a decision that was made a long time ago, and maybe we're paying the price for it now. Councillor Morgan, please.
So, yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm not overly invested in what the actual operational structure is. I want a facility that's great for the Didcot area, because that's what we were sold. That's one of the benefits about why we've got so many thousands of extra housing. A couple of things go through a couple of the reports. Why are we not following up all funding sources now? That's mentioned in a couple of the reports, and that's not something that needs to wait for the output. That's something that could be done next week, almost with the right person. Why are we not marketing properly now? Because we're not. I get regular emails from Cornerstone. I've never had one email that tells you what's going on at the Beacon. And I bet, although I don't know for certain, if I went and asked people who are on the Beacon mailing list, I doubt whether they get anything that says what's on the Cornerstone. And quite a lot of people, as Councillor Turner says, live in the wider area. So actually, that's quite an easy way of being able to sell that virtually within the same organisation. So that's an easy to do, I think. Coming back to Councillor Robb's point about using feedback to guide future programmes, if I go back 10, 15 years ago, the quality that we had on offer then was significantly more than it was now. We have more comedy on. And my experience as a regular attendee is that most of those shows were pretty well sold out. And it seems that we've gone down to, I think we said 9, Councillor Robb, but I think that's certainly an audience that appears to me, I'm not professional though, but let's use that evidence to make certain we can generate that. There was a figure quoted of 75 shows. Well, if you look at going out nights, which tend to be Thursday, Friday and Saturday, that's 150. So automatically not using 75 of those in a year. So that's, why aren't we using those 75 nights? Now, I appreciate not all of those is going to be a full house and selling out, but there appears to be quite a lot of dark space there. And just a general point, which is people get into the habit of going somewhere and they get out of the habit of going somewhere. Yep. So I think if we can do something that generates people getting back into the habit of using it as much as it's practical to, that would help. But I think the real key is marketing.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with the point around marketing. It's an interesting one. I think that I remember when we were first looking at this, quite a lot of money was being spent on market, well, considerably, but on one thing, which is the kind of printed fancy brochure. And then as members, we looked at that and we thought, well, surely that's not the best use of money, and we were under pressure to reduce the so-called subsidy. And so I think ultimately it is about having the right skills, which we just don't have. And I completely appreciate, well, we all completely appreciate that now, specifically arts and culture marketing skills, not just for any. So that is 100% true. I actually went and I spoke to some of our marketing staff at Cornerstone, and they said ultimately it's the budget that prevents us to do more. And they had ideas, and and they certainly were very driven and eager, but it is a budget, right? So what we are trying to ensure is that we get some bang for our buck, and as you can see, some of the downward trend in terms of reducing the subsidy is being put in as a result of having more specialists, but also more marketing resource. So in terms of sharing mailing lists with Beacon, I think there is probably a GDPR question that
The point wasn't about sharing the mailing list. The point was about sharing the information with Beacon. So the Cornerstone list still has the Cornerstone going out, but it has the Beacon events on. The Beacon list still goes to Beacon people, but it has Cornerstone events on. So it's not about sharing information, it's about sharing.
It's just about promotion.
cross promotion. Yeah. It is something that we have raised as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just come back to the marketing point, which is a couple of the reports actually mentioned we don't spend enough on that compared to the industry norm. And actually, one of the reasons we have empty seats is because we haven't marketed it. So spending that money, and I appreciate, I don't know what the right figure is, but it was very clear that we were nowhere near the industry norm.
Yeah.
I do take that point on board, Councillor Morgan. No, my day job is marketing, and we do need to look at that. But I'm sure it's been noted. Councillor Gregory and then Councillor Rob.
Yeah, my background's marketing as well, so I would endorse that. The one thing that a couple of points is that many theatres, and I don't have any data, but they often rely on things like their pantos. And from my understanding, we haven't done any Christmas shows or pantos. I recall there were some before COVID, which were really good. I attended a couple of them, and that you've got that more longevity to get reviews out, and that will help with the PR and marketing. So that was my first comment, and my second comment was about potentially partnering with kind of like local, or at least getting Cornerstone name out there as a potential venue for like dance and drama clubs, because they will always sell out, because if your child is performing, you will buy tickets for it. So it's a good opportunity for sales.
Yes, so in terms of pantos, there's a little bit of history as well. So we at Cornerstone, we used to actually put our in-house show with all the props and everything that comes with it. And we used to have to store the props, and that cost money. And actually, it was just about breaking even, sometimes not quite. So it was seen as one of the things we moved away from. Then we had a kind of off-the-shelf panto performance, and we did have one up until this Christmas just gone. It was Christmas Carol. It was great. I went to see it and really enjoyed it, and I think that did really well in terms of sales. It was pretty much full. And so, but this year, officers have tried something a little different and put more of a varied program, some kind of whole day events, like including crafts, a movie showing, the puppet show, and that actually generated more income. Am I correct? That worked much better if we are talking about data. So I think we've got the three models, and we can kind of see what works best in terms of income generation. And I think customers have been quite happy. In terms of dance and what is it? Dance and
drama clubs.
I think we definitely have dance already. We do have quite a lot of kind of clubs that do come along, and quite a lot of children's activity. And I think that those are doing okay. They're external hires, so it's usually they just come and hire the place. And again, in terms of,
do we sell tickets on top of that though, or do we just hire?
Do we sell tickets for the schools that come along? I can't
clarify that for you. If I may, Chair, can I just ask
Yes, please do.
Carol, would you be happy to come in to clarify that point, please?
Yes, of course. So with our performance hires, we take a commission and sell tickets on their behalf. At the moment, the split is currently 50-50, and we are investigating that in the market to make sure that that's still the right level of split that we should have for those performance hire events.
Thank you. I know Councillor Ruan wanted to come in a bit earlier. Do you want to
It was just a bit of factual on comedy. I know where you got the number from because I've just done a search on the website.
Stop it.
But there is a monthly comedy club which is organised by Matt Richardson, who's a local comedian. He always has a headliner who is a well-known TV comedian, and it's on every month. On the website, there's only the next 2 dates that are on there because he has to finalise dates when people are available. Also, to link in with what Councillor Turner was saying about the venue size, because it's such a small venue, we don't tend to get the big names as part of their tour. What we get is them doing a warm-up. So when Adam Kay came, he's the This Is Gonna Hurt doctor. He was going into the West End and he had a panic the week before and wanted a warm-up. And so he booked to do the Sunday night before he went into the West End at Cornerstone, because he happens to live locally. And that sold out so quickly, he then did an afternoon show as well. But that was literally at sort of 2 weeks' notice, I think. So they are quite opportunistic, and a lot of the shows you see, it's the first show of the tour. And it's usually as a warm-up act. But people who go to see it realise that that's what they're getting, and they do quite often sell out.
Thank you for that. I am keen to get through as many questions as possible. So can council members please get to the question? Okay. So Councillor Keith Ryan, please.
I have a very simple question. How much thought have you put? I mean, how much have you sort of tried to find out whether actually forming a local charity isn't the best answer? You know, getting investment by the community in the thing as a community asset, whether in the technical term or not. You know, rather than the council going on trying to be the main runner, as it were.
Well, the Bryn Jones report explored that in well, the wrong figures, but in quite a bit of detail. And it is something that we do want to consider in 18 months' time when we have got Cornerstone to optimize it as much as possible. When I say optimize it, I really want to be clear that we don't talk about just the financial aspect, but in terms of the offer as well, because there is recognition that, you know, arts and culture venues do offer social value to communities. So in terms of optimizing it. So once we have done that, we're going to all collectively revisit the decision as to what is the best operational structure for Cornerstone. And certainly trust, it is the way many are going. Actually, I think that there is, I mean, just my personal views, benefits in terms of being able to fundraise from many more sources, in terms of the incentives, perhaps, you know, you don't have the kind of backup of the council. These are, again, personal views, but also in terms of, I think the reality is that at the moment, if we were to go out to try and decide on what is the best structure, and even if we decide that, let's say it's a management company or indeed a trust, the question that I genuinely don't think, I genuinely don't think it would be feasible, because we would still have to contribute a subsidy of this size, because who would take it on otherwise, right? I mean, that is the reality, and that is why, you know, the action plan will hopefully help some, and at that point we will know what is our lot, and at that point we can make decisions to what is the best governance structure. But it is, we are still thinking about it. It's a live issue.
Yeah, obviously you have to get the community investment before you can even, you know, before if it's going to work that way, which might actually be the best long-term solution, you've got to get people more involved in thinking about it that way, and this is not quite the way to go about that, I wouldn't have thought.
Well, there's a couple of items on community engagement as part of the action plan. Is there more in addition that you think we should be doing? Because obviously having the input from Pidcock Garden Town boards, and then there is item 10 is increase community engagement to inform review of the public and cultural offer. So it is very much looking to kind of do stakeholder mapping, to do community boards, etc. So I think there's quite a bit on that aspect to kind of get ownership. I suspect.
Yeah, yes, this is exactly what is needed. But actually talking to other communities where this has happened, Wallingford is one, and it's only down the road. You know, which.
No, that's a good point.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Rob, is there anyone who hasn't spoken who would like to read? Councillor Barlow.
I have a slightly different question about decarbonisation. Given the scale of impact, I salute our ambition to do it. And I noticed that it's £1.5 million. If I read that right, okay, I was thinking about our investment rather than so net. And I noticed that it talks about having £22,000 a year energy savings. So by my working out, that would take about 100 years for us to get payback on it. From my experience, that just feels like quite. I wonder what I'm missing. Is it really that disparate, the amount we need to invest for the amount of savings, given the way we're talking about this? How prudent is that at the moment? I'm wondering.
I'll give it a go, and you can. So yeah, return on investment on a lot of these projects is incredibly long. First, I don't think that we really have the luxury of not doing it, because we have our climate targets, and obviously decarbonising our buildings is something that we have to do in order to meet them, or even come close to meeting them. I mean, in a way, both the 1.5 million and the nearly 400,000 that is coming is external in a way. It is either developer contributions or the PSDF or PSDS, which is the Public Sector Decarbonisation Fund. So it is money that is there anyway. I mean, you can argue that there's alternative uses for the still pot, there isn't for the government pot, but I guess this is just meeting our other obligations as part of our climate and action plan.
Okay, you want to come back?
Yeah, just from my experience, having done a lot of this in the past, I think your key point there is how does it compare to other projects in terms of GHG savings per pound? Because there may be a better way for us as a council to invest £500,000 if we think about our target as a net zero target, not £500,000, £1.5 million. So I'm not arguing at all that we have an obligation to do it. And I'm wondering, is that really the cleverest way of us achieving what we're trying to do?
So the way that we do these things is that we normally hire a consultant that tells us based on the building and what it looks like. It's quite an awkward building to actually decarbonise.
I understand the challenge.
You know, with the windows, you know, whatever. And they effectively tell us what needs to be done, and on the basis of that, effectively, funds are allocated. But it is our building, so if we don't decarbonise it, then we won't meet our climate emergency targets and targets. So I'm not sure what better use there is. Really, we have to decarbonise all of our leisure centres and all the buildings that we own.
Okay, thank you. I just want to let council members know, committee members know that we've got another 10 minutes. So, and I just want to remind councillors that you can ask questions at council. So this is coming back. So if there are questions that you have, because this will be on the agenda papers in our next council meeting. So if you can't get any questions across, there will be time to review and scrutinise again. So you want to come?
Oh no, I was just thinking.
Okay. All right. So any other questions? Councillor Rob and then Councillor Rawlings, and then we'll go to debate. Thank you.
Just to pick up on what Councillor Keats-Rowan mentioned, are there plans, I don't see them in here, are there plans for direct liaison with comparable organisations as part of the strategy?
Well, yes, in a way. We had been talking about that as part of the person that will come on board. I mean, one hope is that this person will come with being really well connected. I think historically there used to be a forum for arts and culture venues, and our staff member at the time used to attend these, but these have stopped happening. And Adriana, can you remind me when that was, or Susanna? I think it was just pre-COVID, let's put it that way. And so we are very much hoping, not only in terms of being able to share good practice and do benchmarking, but also because we want to do some of these cross promotions, for example. And also remember, we have our arts and culture strategy that will involve working with not just Cornerstone, but other arts and culture venues. So it is certainly being thought about, and we do hope that maybe this person will come with their own connection.
I wonder if that could be, if you would consider adding that as an item to the short-term plan. Because I think it's quite important. We've heard a lot tonight about the fact that the venue is constrained because it only has 234 seats. The Watermill in Newbury has 220. The Kenton in Henley has 240. The Mill Arts Centre in Banbury has 250. They're not on their knees in the same way that Cornerstone is. What is it that they're doing that we're not? And I think we could learn a lot from them. So I'd really like to see some learning lessons.
Can I just come in there?
Andrew, yes.
Yeah, yes, certainly. So we have already started engaging in organisations such as the Mill in Banbury, that you've mentioned. So we'll continue to do that. But thank you.
Thank you. I'll take one more question from Councillor Rawlings, and then we'll go into debate. Councillor Rawlings.
Despite the fact that I think that the Brim Jones report had a lot of very valuable stuff in it, I tend to agree with officers that it's not right to switch structure right now. I think what we have to do is get this thing up on its feet, and I think we have to have a target of getting the loss down to at least 300,000 by 25-26. And I think we have to actually set those kinds of targets and then figure out how we get there. I completely agree. Seats are an issue, but they're not a killer. And the report showed that and that identified those other venues, including the Corn Exchange in Newbury and so forth, which have got a dramatically better performance and visitor attraction than this. On the Leader, I hope we'll be told that it is an operator, that it's a commercial operator, and that we've got somebody of that nature. I think the reporting, the analysis showed very clearly we tend to have our staff in when they're not so needed, and they're not here, and not in Cornerstone when they are needed. I very much support what Councillor Rob was saying about the reporting. We do need monthly analysis and fast outputs. And actually, this is a retail business, and most retail business will have weekly reporting of their takings, of their footfall, of their forward bookings when that's applicable, and their staff hours. The real basics that actually allow them to get.
I want to print a t-shirt saying question.
I'm just saying these things need to be addressed, including the marketing aspect of analysis of what happens on a house list and who comes for what, and targeting the people who come for those kinds of shows. And I'm looking for those answers. But I agree that seats are not a killer.
Okay, I'm going to go into debate now quickly, and I'm going to start off. I don't think this is a question about whether we would need or want Cornerstone. The answer clearly is yes, because I've got a whole list of things that the Cornerstone is. It is the only arts centre in culture centre in South Oxfordshire. It's not just Didcot. I totally agree with someone that said we need to look at the wider catchment area. You know, some of the things that happen there. There's quality productions. It's an art centre. It generates revenue. It puts Didcot on the map. You know, it's used for other purposes. What would we have done if we didn't have Cornerstone during the pandemic? So we need to look at the actual facility it has, and we need to show it's an asset for Didcot and also South Oxfordshire. But what we're looking at is the approach and the framework, very much like earlier, and I'm glad that the report's come forward, and we're looking at how can we make Cornerstone an even better facility. And I think that's what we need to consider and think about. And I've just got a list of some of the things that's been mentioned, and I hopefully Councillor Philippa Rivers and the CAB members and the Cabinet will listen to. It's clearly better reporting, more frequent reporting. We need to look at funding sources. There needs to be a clear marketing review because without people knowing what productions are going on, they're not going to come. There needs to be a review of shows and type of shows. We need to start thinking bigger. It's a wider catchment area. So again, let's focus on that. We need to look at how to save energy and save other savings within that. And it's fundamental. I know you've got an 18 months program. This needs to come back in 12 months. They need to tell us what's going on and what's happened, if maybe even earlier. So what I'm going to suggest is, and hopefully you will support me on this, the recommendations are in the report, and as clearly stated, we endorse the approach, but you take on the points that we've just mentioned, and further debate and questioning can happen at council, and I'm sure it will. But at the moment, we just need to let you get on with it. So I'm going to propose that we go with the recommendations in the report with our comments. Who will second that for me? Councillor Rob, thank you. Any debate or questions on that?
I still feel uncomfortable about the decarbonisation because the scale of investment.
Can I just say we've got 1 minute? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
yeah, don't worry.
I still don't think we've seen detail. Support, we need to get action on this. We can't let it on fire, but we need to move on.
Remember,
and get more
this
detail.
is the fact that this has come now, we can do something with it. But we can also, again, it's a living document, which is we're trying to avoid, but this is going to keep evolving. We will have further opportunity to discuss at council meeting, and if need be, we can bring it back to scrutiny. So on that basis, unless anyone's got any other comments, I want to take to the vote. Who's happy to in favour with what I've said? Okay. Any abstentions? Any against? That's clearly passed. Councillors, thank you. And on that notice, I will close the meeting, but I do want to thank you, all the cabinet members and all the officers for their time and hard work in the force. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.